we should probably talk about Valley of Heart's Delight. You mentioned it earlier. So that was released in fall of 2023,
Yeah.
correct? And also got plenty of accolades. And I know that you wrote a lot of those songs while you were living in Oregon along the Snake River. So how did that place, like the town that you were in and the snake, like how did that inform your songwriting?
Well, I was in a small town. Enterprise, Oregon is the name of it. There's 1,800 people there. And I mean, it's really off the beaten track. And like it's not off an interstate. You have to really, like the town itself is 64 miles away from a stoplight. So
Oh,
you you leave the town of LeGrand, and that's the last stoplight you see for 60 miles before you like get to our,
wow.
yeah, there's no stoplights in the whole county. Yeah, so that sort of sets the scene a little bit. And
Sure.
there I was, a songwriter, and I was working random jobs, babysitting, waitressing, um, just lots of jobs. And I would just, when I wasn't working, I'd just sit there with my guitar, and that's how I wrote With the Middle. I mean, I was listening to a lot
Mm.
of Leanne Womack and like Diamond Rio. I was kind of revisiting like that kind of the 90s country stuff. But yeah, I think that line, I mean, it just came out. Sometimes a woman's dream is to be alone. I'm sure that's true for everyone. But sometimes like using a tool like that to say, instead of like maybe I wanted to say that, but I want it to be sort of watered down. You want to generalize a little more and just say,
Sure.
instead of like my dream is to be alone, you just say sometimes a woman's dream. You kind of hint, hint.
Right.
You can use tools like that in songwriting to sort of deflect a little bit, right? Like
Sure.
instead of being too direct.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, some people really that song has really meant a lot to them, and yeah, I think it's a familiar feeling if you have ever felt stuck trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel in between your coffee and wine, you know.
Right. I would change the lyrics a little bit though, like coffee and beer, right? I'm a
Coffee.
beer snob. So, but it's
Nice.
your song. We'll keep the wine lyric in
Hey,
there.
you have my permission to change it to beer when you're
Sweet.
sharing Frankie's version.
Love it. Well, thank you. And then speaking of the Snake River, we have to talk about Steelhead Trout, right?
Of
Because
course.
that is like in fact, last year Jason and I did like a our five favorite songs of 2023, like leading up to New Year's. And
Nice.
Steelhead Trout was one of my five favorites of the year.
Awesome.
I mean, it's just a great song. Your version of it is, it's another toe tapper. And
Yes.
and when I saw you last at Fitzgerald's American Music Festival, you
Yeah.
introduced the song and I was like, whoa! I actually cheered because I'm weird like that. And because it, has something to do with fishing and we talked about fly fishing.
Yeah.
So what was your thought when you decided to cover steelhead trout? Is it because of your time on the Snake River?
Well, so okay, I guess say the reason I like that song so much, other than the fact that I just think it really is well written and like is really fun. I love that it's written from the perspective of a dam worker because it's like you're just leading with this like blue collar good old boy working on a dam, and you're not writing, it's not written from some like woo woo like conservation like in the West, there's nothing worse than environmentalists. It's just
Yeah.
just takes all the fun out of everything. The goddamned environmentalists, right? So, but here you have this song that's posing this like it's at once like telling the story of someone who has like a very ordinary job working on a dam, but it's also this song that celebrates this thing that's wild and free, and that's like it's like the wild Mustang, spirit of the American West. We like, I think it's worth celebrating things that are wild and free. And that's um, because at best, that's how we would feel, right? Is wild and
Sure.
free. Whether that's like a a wild horse or a steelhead trout or like the Rogue River. There's it's kind of worth pausing to celebrate things that are doing what they're born to do,
Yeah.
right? But it's not a preachy song. It's just like it's just only death can stop the steelhead. I don't know. And it just makes me feel all pumped up. I just love it. And it's bigger than whatever garbage society we have put together, right? Like
Fair.
I don't know.
Fair.
Very fair. Very fair.
I
We hear
like
you.
I like a song that celebrates like the just the natural perfection, and then
Hmm.
there's this obstruction in the way of that natural
Mhm.
perfection.
Nice.
And that
So
is
yeah,
sort of controversial, right? I mean, I'm
yeah,
assuming you're speaking of the dam.
yes, yeah, and
Okay.
just human, yeah, and just human intervention of
Yeah.
these of the yeah, and in the Northwest, like the fish are so like the so my husband is part like Chinook. He's an affiliated member of the Chinook tribe, and every like they'll just distribute salmon to the tribe, and there's there's this guy who comes around with a cooler of fish, and they just dole out salmon, and you're like, okay, this afternoon we've got salmon coming in the cooler, so we have to like plan to fillet it, and my father-in-law smokes it, and it's just like
Oh,
it's um this connection to how things were for the indigenous peoples for so long, and like the fish that sustained their communities, and just being tied to the land in that way is so precious, and I just love to celebrate things like that. And that's why like the natural world, well, I'm a part of the natural world, the delineating between like the man-made world and the natural world. That's where we kind of lose some of the that's where the plot gets lost, right? Is like marking us versus them and everything. Um, but I just love to sing about that because that's what's real to me. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
that is the real everyday world around me. At least like maybe where I live, I feel it more,
Sure.
But I just don't want to I like to keep an like a wide perspective, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On life in the West, because it's real to us.